I'm Gabriele Columbro. I'm the Executive Director of FINOS. I'm going to try to keep it short. It's not my forte. I'm Italian. I talk a lot. But I want to leave the stage to actually our community, because really today is about you. It's about, I think the message is way more powerful when our community members and our contributors talk about it. And so I just want to give you a quick overview of the state of the union, the state of the community, where we are today and where we're going to go for the foreseeable future. So there's two things that I'd like you to take away from the conference today. Is financial services and open source is not an oxymoronic phrase anymore. We are serious about open source. And I hope that throughout the day, you'll see how this can make a change in the industry. It's already making a change in the industry, not just in FINOS, but above and beyond what we're doing within our community. And secondly, and most importantly, how open source is a massive opportunity for you individually. I mean, communities are built out of individuals. But also for your organization, whether you work for a financial institution, whether you work for a fintech company, whether you work for a regulator, or whether you're just promoting yourself. It's finally here, and it's here to stay. So without further ado, for those of you who don't know FINOS, and how many of you don't know FINOS? Good. We're now in our 18 months since we launched the company. Since then, we've seen pretty fantastic growth. Behind me, I want to send a shout out to our members. Todd thanked the sponsors for today, but our foundation would not exist without our members. And so I want to send a shout out. I think, the most amazing, at least from my perspective, aspect of our community, we have a very diverse community from companies coming from financial services, tech companies, fintech companies. We added this year not only some additional financial institutions, but we have services and product vendors. The community is growing at a pace that, not even when we launched, we thought it would. And so, I want to again send a shout out to our members. Having said that, our community is much bigger than just our members. This is an open source community. Everyone is welcome to participate. So by no means you should only be a member. We welcome contribution from any of you. And this conference is really the moment where we welcome and we hope ideas will spark. Not only we grew in members over the last year, just give you a quick overview of, sort of the breadth of our community. We had some, pretty substantial contributions, and that's why I say the industry is serious about open source. This is not just about, putting a brand, a logo up there, saying that you're supporting an open source foundation. We've had some pretty substantial contributions, ranging from, Perspective, for example. If you're familiar with it, it was a contribution from JP Morgan. It's a very advanced, very mature, truly open source data visualization framework based on WebAssembly. Again, open source code. Another big achievement of the last year has been FDC3. It's an open standard for interoperability, desktop interoperability. Again, open source, open standards. And finally, again, just one of the many projects that we have there focused around data. We do have not only Data Helix, which is a contribution from one of our members, Scott Logic from the UK, but we also have several open data initiatives, from security reference working group to our financial objects group. Again, just to show you the breadth of, it's not just about open source code, it's not just about open standards, it's not just about open data. There's so many ways that we could be collaborating, and FINOS provides the forum for it. We are more and more looking at also what happens beyond our community. Open source again, by the very nature of community, shouldn't just be limited to what we do within our community, but the effect that we're having on financial services doing open source, again, above and beyond the projects that we see in the FINOS GitHub repository. These are numbers provided by our Platinum member GitHub. They're from 2018. But just to give you an idea, these are only associated. These are commits, repositories, and committers associated to financial services GitHub accounts from a domain standpoint. Again, these are pretty big numbers. But if you think about the potential population of developers within the industry, there's so much more to go. But again, this is not anymore. Open source and financial services fit in the very same phrase. Now, I don't want to paint just a happy picture here. There's still a lot to go. We still see financial institutions and even fintech companies on a very broad spectrum of maturity as far as open source readiness go. But even in the last 2 years, in the 2 years of FINOS, we have seen massive progress. One point here you see on the top left, top right, I guess. Yeah. People tell me, no, we don't do open source. And I mean, that's a little bit of a misconception. You all are using open source one way or another. You might not be contributing, but let's be clear. If you think that your developers are not using open source, that's probably your worst nightmare situation. You want to have policies in place to allow them to do open source because, trust me, they'll find a way to do it. And you want to be able to harness that power. And that's where FINOS comes in. Not only we shepherd programs and projects, and we'd love to talk to you about our existing projects or idea that you have today for new projects, but we also do a lot of enablement, again, to bring everyone up to par in the curve of open source readiness. So please come and talk to us at our booth number 6, I believe. Now, I want to spend a couple of minutes before I leave it to much smarter people than me and our community. But we look back. Now I want to look quickly forward. What's in store for us? I think it's fair to say, and hopefully in the next couple of minutes and throughout the day, I'll be able to show you why. It's not inconceivable to think that moving forward, financial services will be powered, the core of the financial services system will be powered out of open source, very much like we've seen in so many other industries. And why is that? I mean, look, we all know the industry is undergoing the digital transformation, the move to the cloud. There's this strive for innovation. But why is that? Well, even in the last 9 years, revenue for the top 12 banks has gone down 39 billions. That's like if Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan will disappear. So in the end, this strive for innovation is not really anymore just optimization or efficiency. It's a vital need for this industry to reinvent the way they build technology. And so the battlefield has moved from getting the best traders to having the best technology. So sort of just throwing money at the problem, it's not going to cut it. That's why you see this sort of hate and love relationship with the Silicon Valley. I mean, on one hand, sort of this, many of the mantras of the West Coast being taken and brought in this industry. I'm actually based in San Francisco. But on the other hand, sort of this idea that sort of big tech is sort of, eating out of the business here on the East Coast because they're not regulated. But, I don't think that beanbags are actually going to cut it. I don't think that just throwing an innovation lab, it's enough. We hope that throughout the day, you'll see how open source can be a fundamental part and why it has risen to really CIO level concern. You guys need to have an open source strategy. I mean, to be fair, there has been a little bit of cross-pollination here and there, especially as far as the dress code goes. Just by walking around Midtown, you can probably see how, button-down shirts and vests, are very similar now across both coasts. And just allow me a rant here. How is it that to appeal to financial services developers now I gotta wear a vest and a button-down shirt? Like, I'm Italian, don't tell people at home, I might just be disowned. But anyway, that's what it is. And so I want to make sure you guys understand that, probably with a simple example. I mean, we all now realize, and I think this is a big difference, that I'm not sure if it's clear. And I think definitely in our community, there is this realization that very much like cloud, we realize that hardware is not a differentiator anymore. At least for many of the workloads. And so it makes sense to go to cloud. Every company is going through the digital transformation. Well, our proposition is that there is a whole other layer on top of hardware that is not differentiating. It's a commodity layer of sort, which is very much built out of open source. And this, I think, is the sort of best open secret from the West Coast, meaning most of the companies that either run SaaS services or offer sort of big tech, they really build probably 10, 20% of their applications. 80% is out of open source. I've read a survey from NPM where they were estimating 95% of the application being built on open source. And so then you wonder why, no wonder, every day there is an advantage gained because they're much faster and much more efficient to just focus on competitive differentiator and what delivers actual value. Now, I want to make sure I stay on time. Again, not my forte. But we talked about the top line. Well, the bottom line, again, is at a similar sort of shrinking pattern. Again, since 2010, it's estimated that compliance budgets have gone up 30%, up to really 15% of the IT spend. That's a massive increase, and it's certainly compounding with the revenue shrink. Not only that, but I think there's an opportunity here, and hopefully today you'll hear it, and you hopefully agree with us that there's an opportunity, because if you think about regulatory requirements, well, those apply to every company in this industry. And they're just an item on the bottom line. They don't, deliver value to you. And so if you think about it, those are really the type of things that, non-competitive IP, where there's really potential for collaboration. And so what we will, FINOS, you're going to see it more and more, and you're going to hear it today. We'll have some really nice announcements on identity, regulatory modeling. We have a cloud certification project that we'd love for you guys to check out, and we have a session today, originally contributed by JP Morgan. But we think there's a huge opportunity in what we call compliance as code, especially as open source code. Because not only financial institutions can mutualize their costs, not only fintech companies could have a much more level playing field and on-ramp towards being in this business, but we think the regulators, who are actually in a much deeper talent crunch than other organizations, would have a huge benefit to have regulation defined as code, as open source code, as a common core that we can all use. That would be much more efficient and transparent. And so, look, I'm going to wrap it just by saying we think that the advantages of open source in financial services are not just limited to the technology organization. Again, throughout the day, you'll hopefully hear how the business has grown very aware of what open source collaboration and open collaboration can bring to this industry. You'll hear it in a second from our chair and vice chair, who can talk about that much more sort of powerfully than I can. But I want to throw a challenge here. This is a quote that it's from me today. And I wanna see, I think it's not inconceivable to say that in 10 years, very much like other industries, the core of this industry could be run out of open source. But don't be mistaken, we need your help to get there. So please talk to each other, come to our booth, learn how you can contribute. There's no price tag attached to it. It's going to be good for you as an individual and for your organization. And we can talk at OSSF 2029 whether we actually got there. So have an amazing conference, and thank you for being here.